Good afternoon, folks. My name's Toad. Welcome to Visordown and welcome to Jerez for the launch of the new 2022 Ducati Panigale V4 S. So we have had a mixed bag today. Sorry, Johan Zarco's just flying by. I better shut up. I'll let you have a listen though. Needless to say, he's faster than me. Anyway, so we're here for the Panigale. Like I said, we've had a bit of a mixed bag with regards to the weather. It absolutely hooned it down with rain this morning. So the track was wet when we arrived, but it's dried out. It's been absolutely glorious, and it is probably perfect weather for riding a motorcycle just like this on a track just like this. So what is the 2022 bike? It's a gentle evolution of the Panigale V4 S. You can't really see very much from the outside of the bike. There's some new vents down on the bottom of the fairing there, and a slightly new paint design around the crankcase of the bike. But the clutch cover of the bike. But really, from the outside, there's not much to tell you it's the 2022. What Ducati have done though is they've piled a load of research and development into the bike internally, in the hardware and the software of the machine to really improve it on the road and the track. So this is 25,995 of your British pounds. It is available on a PCP deal at £239 a month if you put down 6,473 quid as a deposit. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it is a lot of bike as well. And after riding it on the road, after riding it on the track today, I'm really seeing it as the benchmark. Here he comes again, sorry. That's a bit naughty. I am really seeing it as the benchmark in the sports bike class at the minute. It's just absolutely blown my mind. So what have Ducati done for this year? So we have got the biggest thing, the most sizable difference that I noticed riding it today is the front end. The front suspension has been completely evolved from the old system. It's still the Öhlins semi-active system on the S. The standard V4 gets the shower manually adjustable setup that it's kind of always had. This has got 9mm longer stroke in the front forks. It's also running a slightly softer spring. And it just totally transforms the riding experience. The Panigale always, to me, felt like quite a hard sort of front end, and it wasn't the front end that gave you much feel. You could kind of rely on it if you had the talent to do so. But importantly, it didn't give you that sort of like you're running your hand across the top of the tarmac as you turn it into a corner. The slightly softer setup, it's a bit more plush. It just means that you can drive the front into the corner with real confidence. Absolutely never had a problem with the front end whatsoever. It's really, it's almost forgiving in a way. And it makes the bike easier to ride. Another update for this year, they've adjusted the ergonomics of it. Not massively, there's small changes to the seating position and also the fuel tank. And that was very noticeable on track here at Jerez as well, because it just meant that you could lock yourself onto the bike much easier with your legs. Under braking, you were taking the load off your arms. And also when you're hanging off the bike in the corners, some people just love to show off, don't they? I mean, he is a MotoGP rider, so we'll let him have a bit of fun. And under braking, you can bolster yourself on the fuel tank to take the load off your arms, which is really helpful on a track like this. And also when you're hanging off the side of the bike as well, they've made changes to the contour of the tank. I think it's all kind of trickled down from MotoGP, and it just made hanging off the bike a lot more comfortable as well. Other changes, I mean, Can I feel a difference when you move the swing arm pivot 4mm higher? No, I can't, but I can understand the principle behind it of what it's doing and how it's helping to prevent the bike from squat under acceleration. I will say that this bike, compared to the previous generation, feels much more stable. It's a much more forgiving platform, and this is, to date, the easiest Panigale to ride fast in terms of physical effort and the amount that you have to do to get the bike to go around a corner quickly. That's the biggest change. The Panigale was always fast. They didn't need to change that at all. What they needed to do was make that speed a little bit more accessible for a greater number of people, and that's exactly what they've done with this update for 2022. I'm going to talk very briefly about the engine because there are changes in there as well. So we've got slightly greater power output. So we've got about 1.5 bhp more. It's coming in at 215.5 bhp. The 5 is obviously very important because they mention it on the press release. And we've got 123 Newton meters of torque. Again, I go back to the rideability and the accessibility of the bike. The Panigale is not a bike that desperately needs or wants more power. And I think for most people, he's not most people, by the way. I think for most people, they don't want more power from it either. I think when you go up a level, you take a step up to people who are doing sort of stock racing and sort of club racing and things like that, then yeah, they will probably want a little bit more power. But that's why there's a £6,000 a Krapovic exhaust sitting on a table in there that you can buy and upgrade and add another, I don't know, too much bhp to the thing. Like I said, when we turned up this morning at Jerez, it was wet. So there was spray on the track. It wasn't really standing water, but it was very moist. The first sessions we rode were on the Pirelli Racing Wet. And this bike has got a wet Evo wet mode, so it limits the bhp to 150. It ups things like the traction control and the ABS and all the rest of it, but it only ups it a bit because the Evo setting is basically telling the bike that you've got decent sort of racing wet tyres that you're going to be riding on. And I've got to admit, it was absolute witchcraft. The amount of grip that you felt underneath you. You went out on the first 2 laps, you were just wobbling around, and then as you started to build the pace and get faster and faster and faster, it just felt like you were riding around on a dry track. It was completely incredible. You had to ride under the UFO that you can see behind me down there to actually get spray on your visor to remind you that the track was wet. It was absolute witchcraft. There is some voodoo going on in that ECU and in those tyres that just makes it so... Come on, Johan, give it a break. There is some voodoo going on in the ECU and that wet mode and those tyres that just made it absolutely incredible to ride. The track sessions this afternoon, we've been riding on the SC1 Pirelli slicks, and they have been absolutely incredible. You're not going to ride on them on the road, obviously, but as this is a track launch, we've not tried out the road rubber. But yeah, it's got grip for days, it's got poise for days, and this is definitely 100% the easiest Panigale to ride ever. A quick note on the aerodynamics, they've also been updated for this year, so they've got a new design to the winglets that you can see at the front of the bike. They give it more downforce and less drag, so they are not slowing the bike down so much, but they're creating more downforce than the previous generation. Could I feel the extra downforce? I do think you can feel the downforce on a Panigale. Could I feel the extra downforce? I don't think I could. But what you can feel is a real nice stability as you're braking into corners, because the front end of the bike is already loaded and the front tyre is already being squeezed into the tarmac by the aerodynamics. And then when you get on the brake, the front tyre has got less work to do because you're not shocking it by hammering on the front brake. Absolutely incredible. Ducati, thank you very much for inviting me along. Jerez, you have been amazing. I don't know what day God created you on, but build us another racetrack like this in the UK and sort out the weather, please. Anyway, I have waffled on for far too long. I've been Toad at Visordown.com. Thanks very much for watching.